Hi, Hal. Yeah, in this session we are going to discuss our Spring MVC project. Previously we have discussed was the Spring MVC and how it will be the Spring MVC architecture. And in this session we will see a project with Spring and Hibernate, how it look like a J2EE Enterprise Edition project. So, as we discussed previously, the Enterprise Edition project will be divided into 3 layers. Those are controller layer, service layer, and DAO layer. So, let us see how we will divide it into multiple layers. That is, I'm going to create a web project. How we can create a web project? It is a click file, new. Previously, we were creating a Java project, but since it is a web project, we need to select a dynamic web project. Yeah, so it's a dynamic web project. So we can give the name as our project name. Just I'm giving web project. Web PRJ is web PRJ. Is the name. Yes, I have given this name. So now the web project has been created. Here if you see, the web project has been created, and you can see the symbol like web symbol. So when you expand it, so every web project look like have a Java resource and web content. So this you already know. In resource, in Java resource, you will have a SRC folder where we will have our actual source code. And in this SRC folder, we need to create a project. So how we create the project? Right click new, and here I'm going to give the project package name, that is. So as we discussed previously, the package name must start with com, and then the client name, the company name. Suppose if company name is Codex, the Codex dot the project name. The project name is web project. Web PRJ is my project name. Dot the modules. If there are any modules, the module name will give. Suppose if the module is core, the core module dot. Now I'm dividing these into a multiple layers. So those are controller layer, service layer, and DAO layer. So now I need to give the layer name, that is controller. Controller. This is the controller layer. So all control classes I will create in this package. So I need one more package, that is service layer. For service layer, I'm going to create one more package. Dot Codex is company name, and then web PRJ is a project name, and core is module name, and it is service. And then need to create one more package, that is for DAO. One more package. So com dot Codex is the company name, and then project name, module name, refresh. Okay, so now if you see here, I have created 3 packages. One is controller, and DAO, and service. controller, service, DAO, these three layers regarding to same module, that is core module. That is core module. So now I have divided these core module into three layers. One layer is controller layer and service layer and DAO layer. What it contains the controller layer? The controller layer will have a class, the controller class, which handles the URL mappings. The controller class handles the URL mappings. It controls the request and response. So for this request, which method has to execute, that's depend on this controller. So as we seen previously, if you want to make any class as a controller, then by using the annotation at the rate of controller, we can make that class as a controller. So the controller class we will create in this layer, the controller layer. And then the next layer is service layer. In the service layer, we will have the validations. All the service validations we will provide in this service layer. And then DAO layer, the DAO layer will have all database queries. All the database queries will have in this DAO layer. In case if you have one more module, that is, as of now, it is a core module. It is a core module. Just assume we have one more module, that is the admin module. If you have admin module, then we will create package. So comp is a base, and then company say codex dot project name same web PRJ. Then what is the module name? The module name is admin module. Admin dot controller. Then similarly, we have to create for this admin module. For this admin module, we have to create service and DAO also. Package dot company name codex dot project name web PRJ dot module name admin, then which layer it is? Service layer. Now one more layer, that is for admin module, we need to create one more layer, that is DAO layer. Package dot codex is the company name, and then project name web PRJ is the project name, and then module name is admin, and the layer is DAO. So if you see here, we have two modules. We have two modules. One module is admin module. So admin has a controller, DAO and service. Core module also have a controller, DAO and service. So in real time, the project look like this. So we'll have a controller and DAO and service. And here in our web content, in WebINF, here we will have one more folder. If you want to create a folder, you can create new folder here. You can create a new folder. The folder name, you can give it as JSP. All the JSP pages will store here in this JSP. You can have JSP pages. JSP file. So new file.jsp. So then all JSPs will create in this JSP file. In this JSP file, we'll create a new file.jsp. And then this lib folder will have all jar files. Or jar files, those are supported for Spring and Hibernate. So let us see how it will be a project. So let's look like, and then here I have a project that is here. If you see, this is the Spring Hibernate app. This is the Spring Hibernate app. In the Spring Hibernate app, I have, when I expand here, you can see the Java resource. The Java resource is the actual source code, and here we have SRC folder. In this SRC folder, when you expand this SRC folder, here you can see com.codex.bean, com.codex.controller, com.codex.dao, com.codex.model, and com.codex.service. These three are the layers: controller layer, service layer, and DAO layer. And then I have my model class. So the model class is for transferring the data from one layer to other layer. And then in webroot, when I expand this webroot, here you can see the webinf folder. In the webinf folder, here we have a config folder and then lib folder. What it contains? The lib folder. The lib folder contains all jar files. These all are the jar files supported for all the things. These are Hibernate and Spring and JSTL, log4j, everything. It will support all the things here. These all are the jar files. And then in case if you want to send XML, you can use the XML parse and everything we have here. So for this, it is log4j. And then in case for sending the emails, we have a mail. If you want to send, we need to import this jar file, mail jar4. So these are the jar files which supports our Spring and Hibernate. Then here we have a config. The config folder, what it contains? The config folder has a codex servlet XML. So here we will have our, so previously we have discussed, we have a dispatcher servlet. We'll have a dispatcher servlet. So then here this one will have the view resolver and then Hibernate configurations and everything will have here. And URLs and everything. This codex servlet. And here I have one more, that is web.xml. This web.xml is a dispatcher servlet. So this is the front controller. Actually, everything, the execution will start from here. So it acts as a front controller. Dispatcher servlet act as a front controller. So in case if you want to create a web project, then we require two XML files. One is the web.xml that have the dispatcher servlet, and another XML file is for configuring the view resolver and the Hibernate mappings. So for all these things we need one more XML. So here, as I shown you previously, I have created one folder, that is the JSP folder. So here I have created views folder. The folder name is views. So what it contains, the views? The views contain all JSP files. Those are add employee.jsp, employee list.jsp, and index.jsp. I have these three JSPs. these three JSPs. So when I run this project, initially the index.jsp will call, because in web.xml file, I have welcome file list. That is, here we have a welcome file. So whatever we place in the welcome file, that it will call automatically whenever we run the project. When I run the project, then the dispatcher servlet, the front controller, will come to the front controller, and here we have the welcome file. The welcome file, it will load automatically when you run the project. That index.html will load. What it contains, the index.html. The index.html is, this is the code, and here we have, just I have given the title is Spring MVC with a Hibernate 3 crude example using annotations, and then this is the header, and here I have given links. The links is employee.html, so it will call the employees HTML file, and then add HTML. It will call add HTML file. So it will call these files. So now let us see how it will execute and how it will be the flow. That is, when I run this project, so in order to execute, we require a server. So that is, I'm using Tomcat 7.0 server. You can see here. So that is HTTP colon local host. Local host is is a server name. In real time, we'll have a server name. For example, if the server name is OCBC dev, OCBC dev will be the server name. And then this is a port of the server. So the Tomcat server default port is 8080, but I have changed it to 8081. So this is the port, and then this is load and startup. When you load it, then this is the URL will go. So when I run this project, then the project is the index.html. What it contains, the index.html? The index.html will have Spring 3 MVC with a Hibernate 3 crude example using annotations. And here I have two links. One is list of employees, other one is the add employees. List of employees and add employees. So when I click on list of employees or add employee, just assume I'm clicking on add employee. When I click on add employee, what happened? It came here. Yeah. When I click on add employee, so here this is the page. Here it is disabled. This field is disabled because it has to generate automatically. So employee name, the employee name I will give, that is employee name is Virat, and the employee age is, and the employee salary is, and employee address is Chennai. And then when we submit it, then the employee is added. 6 is automatically generated, and here Virat, age is 30, and this is the salary, and Chennai. So then if you want to edit, yes, you can edit. If you want to delete, you can delete by these things. But let us see programmatically how it is happening, how it's executing this. Here, if you see here, we have a resource, one more package, that is the resource This resource will have a database properties. Those are here. Database driver name, that is database driver name is com.mysql.jdbc driver. So for this project I am using MySQL. It's not a Oracle. It's a MySQL database. And database URL, this is the database URL jdbc colon previously jdbc colon Oracle colon thin colon at the rate of localhost. But for MySQL, this is the jdbc colon MySQL colon / that localhost, and 3307 is a port of the database, and then this is the schema name. Flight is the schema name, and database user, the user ID is root, and the password is also root. And here this is Hibernate dialect. When we are discussing about Hibernate, we will see Hibernate dialect. What it do, which database we are using, whether it is the Oracle database or MySQL database or DB2 database, which database it is, we have to specify. That is here I am telling MySQL dialect. So when we will use this, we will discuss later when you are discussing about Hibernate. And then Hibernate does show as SQL, that is the true. So this will, when we run, then here it will show the queries. So here select query, and here we have a insert query. It will show the queries in console. And then here hibernate.hvm2ddl auto equal to update. So this one in case when you are inserting the data directly, if there is no table created in the database, the Hibernate will automatically create the database table. We don't need to create the database table. Hibernate will create based on our properties, based on our class properties, it will create the table. So this is the database properties, and here this is the bean. It's a controller class, the DAO class, model, and then service. Let's go to our MVC. It's a model view controller. So yeah. So what we are doing here, when I'm giving the values, the values I'm giving, something I have. When I submit it, then based on the request, that is the add request. If the request come as add, then which method has to execute it? That's depending on here, that is here I have created one controller. That is employee controller. The class is employee controller. Where this class is available in com.codex.controller. Here I have created one class, that is employee controller. So in this employee controller, if you want to make this class as employee controller, then I need to use this annotation, that is @controller. When you put @controller, then this class act as a controller. And now when you are getting the request as add, then what we have to do, use @request mapping, value add. So whenever the request come as add, then what it has to do, it has to execute this method. Which method? This method has to execute. So that I put this top of this method. I have a method that is model view. Model view is the type. Add employee is my method name. So when I give the request add, then what happened? This method has to execute it. So here if you see in our URL, what is the request here? Add is the request. When the request come as add, then this method has to execute it. So what it contains in this method? I am using @model attribute command employee bean. Is a binding the result. So what it do? This will take the values from here. The one way is, that is, we can get the values from this here. Whatever I give the values, Rini, age, salary and address, these all values will bind, will get it here. So now all the values are here in this employee bean. Then these values we have to pass it to the another layer, that is service layer. That we have to pass these values to the another layer. Those are service layer. So for passing these to service layer, what we have to do? We have to call the service class methods. So I have here one more class, that is service class, that is available in com.codex.service layer. In the service layer I have a employee service. In the employee service, this is the interface. Employee service is the interface. What it contains the interface? As we seen previously, what it contains the interface? A interface contains all abstract methods. There will be no implementation here. Just we have a public void add employee, that is employee object we have to pass it. Then public list, this is the list type, and list employees. This is also a abstract method. And public employee get employee int empid. So we have to pass the employee ID. and then public void delete employee, then we have to pass the employee object. These all are abstract methods. These all are abstract methods. This is the specification. Add employee is specification, and list employees, all list of employees we have to get it. So list of employees will have a multiple records, so that the data type is list. The data type is list, but the class, which type of list it is the employee type. That is the employee type. And then here we have a get employee. So the employee data type is employee type. So this is a class. Employee is a class. Which class it is? It is the model class. Employee is the model class. Here you can see in the model, here we have a employee. What it contains, the model class? The model class contains setters and getters method. Just will have a setters and getters method. Have all setters and getter methods. Okay. Now we need to provide the implementation for these methods. If you want to provide implementation for these methods, then we must require one implementation class. For this employee service, we need one implementation class. For that, I have created one more class, that is employee service IMPL is the class. Employee service is the interface. Employee service IMPL is the class. It will implement this employee service. So for all these methods, who will provide the implementation? This employee service IMPL class will provide the implementation. So we can see it here. Yeah, here if you see, my class name is employee service IMPL implements employee service. So whatever the methods are available in employee service interface implements by the employee service IMPL. So in the employee service IMPL, what are the methods we have? Add employee method. So here I have given add employee. So here I am passing the object, employee object, and then here we are calling other class method, that is employee DAO add employee, and we have a list employees, we are providing the implementation, and get employees, we are providing the implementation by passing the employee ID, and then we have one more method, that is delete employee. So this class will provide the implementation for this interface. This employee service interface will provide the implementation for this one. Okay, now for add employee, now if you want to pass those values from the controller, if I want to pass those values from the controller, so from this controller I want to pass this employee object. If I want to pass that employee object, then what I have to do? I have to call add method or list employees method, something method I have to call it. So in order to call that employee, that method, then I have to call the service method. If I want to call the service method from the controller, then what I have to do? I have to create the object for this employee service IMPL. For this employee service IMPL, I need to create the object for this class. I need to create the object in the controller class, so that I can create these methods from the controller class, right? So for creating object for employee service, here we have a annotation, that is @AutoVoid. Here I am declaring one variable, that is private employee service. Now this variable act as a object of this employee service class. This variable act as a object of this employee service class. employee service INPL class. Using this object, we can call all those methods. See here, this is the object name. So here, employee service dot add employee, and here we are passing the employee object. We are passing the employee object. Now, employee service dot employees, employee service dot list employees, and then employee service dot list employees, and employee service dot delete employees. So all these methods we are calling using this object. So in Spring, if you want to create an object, we no need to create like employee service is equal to new employee service. We will not create like that. Just we will use at auto void annotation at auto void annotation, and then private employee service, that is the employee service is the object name. So before that, we need to configure this class in have a servlet, and this servlet anywhere. So just we use at auto void annotation, and we can make it as a object employee service type for employee service type. So this is the annotation we have to use for creating an object. For creating this as object in employee service, IMPL, here in employee service IMPL, here we need to specify that object name, that is at service. We have at service employee service. This is the object name. This object name is injecting into controller, that is by using at auto void private employee is this name, and here this name is this name in the controller, this name is same, and which type it is the type of employee service type. So now using this object, we can call all service methods. Those are these methods. All service methods. These all are the methods. Add employee and list employees and get employees and delete employees. These all are the methods available in the service. Now, when you call add employee method by calling this, by passing this employee object, then what it do? Here employee DAO dot add employee. Employee DAO is the object of this DAO class. That is, here we have one more module, that is DAO. Here in the DAO also we have a interface and a class. In the interface we have only specification. Those are add employee and list employee, get employee and delete employee. And this interface has been implemented by this class, that is employee DAO IMPL. Here in employee DAO IMPL, here we have a method, that is add employee method. We are passing the object, that is the employee object. So the employee object here we are giving session factory dot get current session. This is Hibernate code. You don't worry, even you not understand. Later when we discuss Hibernate, you can understand what it is. So session factory dot get current session, save or update, then we will pass the object name. Here in Hibernate, we no need to write queries, insert query, delete query or update query. We will not write those queries in the Hibernate. So just we use the default methods, built-in methods, those are save or update. In case if you want to insert the data into employees table, then we will pass the employee object. So what it contains, the employee object? The employee object contains the employee ID, employee name, age, salary and address. Age, salary and address. Then you might have get doubt how it knows that which table it has to insert. Which table it has to insert. This is what it is. This is the employee object. This is the employee object. So when it get the employee object, what type it is? Employee type. Then if you go to the employee class, in employee class, here we have configured which class, when you pass this employee object, in which table it has to insert, that we will configure here. How we will configure here is, we have annotation. These are Hibernate annotations. At table name is employee. Now what it meaning that public class employee implements is a serializable. This employee object is mapping with this employee table. The table name is employee. So whatever the object we will create for this employee, that is mapping with employees table. So for this object, what is the table? The table is at table name employee. It means that whatever the data will come from this employee object, it has to store in this employee table. Okay. In the employee table, what it contains will have multiple columns. Then how we to know which column has to store in which field data has to store? Here we have a employee ID, employee name, age, salary and address. Then in employee table we'll have a EMP ID, E name, age, salary, address. Then how it can identify that this employee ID has to store in particular column, this employee name has to store in particular column, that we will map in the Hibernate. That is, here you can see, if you see here, private integer EMP ID. This EMP ID has to store in this column. The column name is at column name is EMP ID. At column name is EMP ID. So the employee ID has to store in EMP ID column. Then string name. Employee name has to store in the column. There is a column name, that is EMP name. So here we are mapping. We have a mappings. So based on these mappings, it will store. Employee address will store in the EMP address column. These are the column names. These are the column names. These are the field names. So those mappings we will do here, so that when you pass this object, when you pass this employee object, then it will come to this class, and here it will check what is the mapping table for this employee is the mapping table. What is the mapping columns? EMP ID has to store in EMP ID column. EMP name has to store in EMP name column. So based on these mappings, here it will insert the data. So just we will give the default methods. Those are save or update. Save or update. So it will work for both, for saving, for inserting and for updating. For both it will work it. For both it will work it. Then list employees. If you want to get the employees, so even for getting the employees also we no need to write. Just session factory dot current session create criteria. We are creating the criteria, that is employee dot class list. Then it will get the list of values from the employees table. Then get employee, so single employee. So for that what we have to do, we have to pass emp id, so then return employee session factory dot get current session dot get employee class dot emp id we are passing as a parameter. So whatever the emp id we are passing, based on this it will go to the employee dot class. In employee dot class, what is the table name? Employee table. Then all the data from employee table it will return it. So delete employee. For delete employee, here session factory dot get current session and create query. In case if you want to write query, here we can write the queries also we can write, that is delete from employee, where emp id equal employee dot get emp id, and then it will execute update. It will execute it. So if you use the employee, if you want to write, you can write the queries. If you don't want to write, yes, you can retrieve the data by using those default method, get method and save or update method and delete method. So for deleting here, I no need to write this query. I have a delete method. I can use delete method. But just for example, yes, we can do another way also, because we have to write, sometimes we have to write queries. Those are, if you want to get directly from object, yeah, it's okay, we can get it. Sometimes we get the data from multiple tables using multiple joins. If there are 10 tables, we need to join each table. So then if you use Hibernate, yes, even joins also we can use using Hibernate. Then in case if you want to write our queries, yes, we can write queries like this and then execute it. If you don't know the queries, if you know the Hibernate, yes, without writing queries, we can use these methods. Those are save or update method and the criteria and then get method. By using these all methods, you can retrieve the. So you don't need to write SQL queries. But if you have a knowledge on SQL, it's good. In case sometimes if you have a requirement to write a queries, you can write it. So the MVC project will look like. So here we have a controller class and then service class and DAO class. What it contains the DAO? The DAO is for database related queries. It's purely for database related queries. Then what it contains the controller? The controller is mapping the request, for request mapping. Here we are using at request mapping. In case if the request is saved, this method has to execute. If request is employee, this method has to execute. If request is add, this method has to execute. Based on the request, which method has to execute it, is depending on this controller. It will take care of the controller. Then what it contains the service? The service is purely for validations. If you want to perform some validations, then we will do the validations in the service. So all J2EE projects will follow this architecture and these layers. So firstly we will have a controller layer, that is for request mapping, and then you will have a service layer. The service layer is for validations, and we'll have a DAO layer, that is database related queries. All database related queries you can write in the DAO layer. So every J2EE project will follow these layers and this architecture. And then Here MVC model view controller. So controller, yes, this is the controller. So why we use the controller? For request mapping, we will use the controller. So previously we seen the diagram. So the controller, this is the controller, and then view. What is the view? The view is JSP pages are the view. The JSP pages are the view. See here, this page is the view. These pages are the view pages. So where are, that is what here I created the folder name is views. These are the views. So add employee JSP and employee list JSP and index. These all are the views. So this is the view. So what we see, the result, that is the view. That is the view. Model MVC. C is the controller and V is the view. That is these JSPs. These JSPs are the views. And then model. What is the model? The model is the object. That is the employee object. This is the model. So it contains it will travel from controller to service, service to DAO, because here from controller what we are passing, we pass this employee object, and again it will have that object. From DAO also we will pass this employee object. So this employee object, this is the object. What it contains? It contains the setter methods and getter methods. Wherever we want to set the value, we can set the value. Whenever we want to get the value, we can get the values. So these setter and getter methods is traveling the data from controller to service, service to DAO, and then sometimes in case if it is retrieval, then it will start from DAO. Anyway, the request has to come from the controller. Then if it is the retrieval, then select query, then from DAO to it has to give the response to the service and service to controller. Then in the controller we will get the model and view. Then the view resolver will decide for which view it has to display. For which view here it has to display. So for example, here we have, when you click on add employee, which view has to display, that is decided by the view resolver. View resolver will decide which view has to display. When click on add employee, this view will display. When click on list of employees, then this view has to display. So this is decided by the view resolver. The view resolver will take care which view has to send the request details, for which view has to send, that is decided by the view resolver. So you are all our J2EE projects will follow this architecture, and then these layers, service layer, controller layer, and DAO layer. So yes, we no need to follow these all three layers. We can write entire code in employee controller class itself. Here itself we can have a database code. Here itself we can have a business logic. Everything we can have. If you write everything in the same class, then the code will be clumsy. Yes, when you are developing, yes, we can develop. Later, in case if we get some bug, I mean some error, then if you want to find out where we are getting the error, it's difficult. And then if it is related to database, then it's difficult. So because of a line of code, the program execution will stop. So that is what we are dividing into multiple layers. Later the maintenance will be easy. So in case if it is something database related problem, then we will not see in this controller and service. Directly we will go to the DAO class. In the DAO class, here we will change something the query. In case if request is not mapping, then directly we will go to the controller. In the controller here we will see this request is not calling here, we can see here. So we are splitting into multiple layers, then later it will be, the maintenance will be easy. And also here we are, previously we seen, that is we are dividing into multiple layers, multiple modules. That is the core module, admin module. That is, if something goes wrong in the core module, then that will not impact for the admin module. Admin module will run successfully, no way. If we are not maintaining the modules, then if something goes wrong in the core module, then we cannot run any of the screen of admin module or core module or whatever modules, nothing can run. If you divide it as multiple modules, if something goes wrong, that will impact for the particular module. It doesn't impact other module. So that we will follow these J2EE architecture and the MVC flow. So this is MVC execution flow. This is the MVC project, and tomorrow from next session we will start the Hibernate. Once we complete the Hibernate, then again we will come back to this project and we will do this project hands-on. So later, once you know the Hibernate, using the Spring and Hibernate both, we will do this project hands-on, so that then in our real time you can what. Okay. In real time, the same look like we'll have a multiple modules and then controller layer, service layer, and a DAO layer. Same, it look like the same. Okay. Okay. Then we will come back to this project again after completion of our Hibernate. Okay. So in the tomorrow session we will start the Hibernate. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Good night.